looking purely at the upper bracket for 3 individual of the 4 regions throughout the entirety of things. So as you kind of see at the very top, Army West Point will be taking on Toledo in our first match of the evening. This is an interesting one. We're not going to spend a ton of time right now necessarily kind of breaking down this kind of overall setup. We'll have time to do that here in a moment, but this Northeast region is still looking pretty treacherous when it comes to this qualifier number 2, Cash.
Yeah, there's no easy route for these teams to take, right? Even though we have our, cream of the crop squads figured out, if that's what you want to call it. Like you said, there's still so many schools here that are going to make deep runs this season, not only in the respective divisions, but just throughout this season and tournament play as a whole. So many teams, no easy route, and every map's going to be important.
100% the case. So with that in mind, we are getting really darn close to dropping into our first overall matchup, but I believe we need to send things over just to a brief intermission. But when we come back, it's all about Army Esports and Toledo COD. One of the first times we'll ever see Toledo COD grace us on the College COD stream. It'll be an interesting introduction for them with a tough opponent on the other side. We'll set up the maps, the modes, and get ourselves into the action when we come back after this short break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, all you crazy COD fanatics. We're getting ready to go for match number 1. I'm Michael Chip, with me still Cash, looking fresh and clean. But we've got, hey, a big matchup right here, and now we can actually dig on into some of the history for these two squads and what were, well, not really great results for either squad in their first qualifier. Army West Point taking on Toledo COD. Cash, give me the early thoughts. Hit me with it.
Yeah, for Army, of course, it was an unlucky spell, right? You get double first rounded, and you're just trying to kind of get a resense of getting your legs under you here in this one, and you want to make sure you qualify for Division 2. If you missed out on Division 1, they're definitely trying to come out with a better performance here, and again, starting off with this first round win would be, well, a better start than they had in the Division 1 qualifiers. As we said, it doesn't get easier for them at all being just in Division 2. There's not any kind of jump off to that extent, but they definitely would not like to get double first rounded in this one, and starting things up against Toledo, as we had said, won't be an easy one, but one that they can pull off to get themselves in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this Toledo squad. I'm always just selfishly always excited to see new schools show up. And if anything about Northern Ohio says anything, you go back to like Modern Warfare 19 and Cold War, Bowling Green State looked pretty darn good. Ohio State has looked pretty good in the past. Now you've got Akron showing up. So it's about time that Toledo gets involved and tries to show some Northern Ohio discipline. Whether or not they're really proximally super close to any of those schools, different story, but hey, it's still a little bit of bragging rights that are going to be on the line. Whereas for Army West Point, hey, this is a squad that has been around now for a while when it comes to their college COD history, just have not really been able to crack the code as being a major competitor. So no better way to start than I would say right here, right now in this Division 2 matchup. We'll have a second to obviously look over the maps and modes as well for this particular series as we're starting to get ready to go here for this one. And I don't know, it's just one of those things that there's not going to be a lot for us to pull off of as like, hey, look at these maps. Like, it's going to be good for this school or another because the sample size of these guys have been minimal and we have not really seen them on broadcast at all. But regardless of that, here is a look at our map series layout. A lot of hotel in the first 3 mixed up with the Mercado Search and Destroy. And then if we need to get to the 4th and the 5th, and Albagra Fortress and El Asilo, I love that we see a hotel hardpoint first and all. I think that as a metric, kind of a barometric test to see what our teams are going to be able to offer, this is a map that tests you on pretty much every core mechanic of what hardpoint is. You have to be able to rotate, you have to be able to set up holds, you're going to be tested on if you can actually successfully break, and the timings of going between hardpoints, well, they're not right next to each other. I think that's the best way of putting it.
I couldn't agree more. I do think it is one of, we talked about, I think with Vanguard, and you talk about Bocage being just like a haymaker fest and one that sees if your gunny's ready. As you said, this one tests you in your more disciplined areas as far as rotating, as far as relying on those breaks if you need to. But I know we don't have a lot to look at as far as what the players bring, but I think with this map set even, I'm going to have an eye on the AR players and what they're able to do, right? A lot of these maps offer some longer lines of sight. Are you winning those gunfights against the opposition's main AR? And what are you doing as far as locking down holds to get 15, 20 seconds of scrap time? We know, especially in Modern Warfare 2, it caters to more of those early rotation play styles. So we're calling 20-second scrap time at this point. That's a substantial amount of time that we need to see these ARs kind of locked down.
Absolutely. There's going to be, again, I think that this is probably the most, like, core mechanical bare minimum map that we've got. You don't have to do anything super crazy. You know, you're not going to be forced to, like, pull out a third sub if you don't want to, like we see on maps like Embassy. You don't have to worry about taking super long early routes like you do on Hydro. It's got a great balance, and I think it's, like I mentioned, a great litmus test to see what exactly our teams have to offer. So, here we go. Map number 1 of Qualifier 2. It's Army West Point taking on Toledo COD. Cash, let's get it on.
Army West Point with the favorite spawns as you look ahead to P2, but still plenty of P1 time to fight over as we get into the thick of things. 3 down favoring Toledo COD. For now, they're going to eat up as much of this time as they can as they look to get their way across the map and maybe influence P2 spawns in a moment. But for now, Army West Point trying to wrap, trying to get an entry point in. Toledo COD denying them every turn.
Love to see it from the Rockets. Ace on 3 to start, eventually taking down Richie for the trade, and that'll allow Army a chance to get in, start to find a little bit of time, but mostly focused on rotation. Again, this is what we talked about, that last 20 seconds. You kind of have to make the decision of how much do you play for old versus investing numbers back over towards new. Caddick able to at least confirm the scrap time for Toledo, who will be the benefactor of 37 seconds plus here on the first hill. That's pretty significant for a first neutral hard point.
It feels like it gives you more of a cushion to break into P2. Army West Point are obviously going to win the rotation over here to P2 as it pops. And now Toledo, yeah, you have a 30-second barrier you can work with to get a break. So there's not pressure to be down 40 and suddenly have to break in immediately. They get to work this how they want to, try to find the kills and play the trades where they need to. But Army West Point holding on for the time being.
Yeah, well done. Nice little forward pressure from Wildcat, followed up by Salvadori. The spawn's not fully in. You've got Colo who spawns out, so kind of gets a chance to read the middle of the map. And even though he does drop a lot of information given over to the Army West Point Knights, as now they have a chance to get a read for this last potential hit from Toledo. And it looks like Toledo's actually going to give up on this, kind of half committed to it. Toxin's the only player left standing, and as he drops, Salvadori gets to 5, and Army West Point take the lead.
Streaks. We'll see what they can come to. Answer going to be nothing as Caddock is able to cut him down. And you don't get a clean setup if you're Toledo here. Richie going to make things interesting over at Kitchen. Sure, you have the numbers, but with Richie popping Deddy on a 3 spree and on the move, his teammates wrapping through the back, you might not be ready for this quick hit.
Have to respond quickly to this. Good pressure over mid-map for Army West Point. Now the hit on towards the interior. Just up to Ace to try to finesse his life in and out of the prep kitchen. Salvadori over the top. Wildcat looking, but apprehensive to actually make the full commitment. Salvadori on the read from player from behind. Well responded to. Pistol out. One more in front. Stays prone, and the pistol works out. Salvadori. 3 in a row for him, and Army West Point win the initial time.
Richie still running around, getting mixy with the Vaznevs, able to find a couple, so that's going to soften this push once again, though Toxin finds 1. Toledo don't look like they found too much footing here. They get a clean break behind Toxin's 3-piece. That'll get them out to a 10-point lead, but Army West Point so far applying constant pressure around the map and already on rotation, delegating 3 players.
It's been one of those situations where we can start to see a pattern unfold very quickly here. Army West Point say, we'll fight for the first 40 and use the back 20 to rotate. And as successful as they've looked at times, Toledo's getting a lot of free time in this scrap. It's led to them now over 80 points and a 30-point cushion as we start to fight over towards the bar area for new. Last one to stay alive for Toledo, though, is Toxin, just kind of waiting in towards spawn. He's actually been able to pull the spawns in for Toledo. Great news for Toledo fans is now that Wildcat guy has got to find a way in. Little mixy around the back as the spawns continue to kind of exchange hands, but it's Toledo in the kill feed. Looking good. The rockets all over the hard point.
You pull spawns, but player 7 and Ace still stayed spawned out. Top bedroom was able to pinch from there, and Army West Point never got a clean look at the hill. Now, from the outside looking in, still trying to work their way around, and as you said, fighting for the front 40 worked. Well, the first go-around on P2 here, we're starting to see Toledo, once they get a clean kill feed, taking full advantage and getting a clean setup and winning in the kill column as well. You're not able to get anything going if you're Army West Point, and that lead started to get a little staunch here through the first 4 hills.
I'll say. It's one of those things that, again, it just feels like it's Army West Point saying, we only want to play for the first 40, and Toledo saying, all right, thanks. I mean, at this point, it's starting to feel pretty casual. So we'll head over towards the dining area. Salvadori first one in, trophy to keep him safe. Does not anticipate Ace on the close corner in rugs, though. And that will lead to Toledo opening up the initial time. Not confirmed yet, though. Army still looking for a chance to move their way in through that rug position. Richie for the first blood. Pratso has to respond. Goes prone. Takes care of the first. One more over the top is Colo. Once more, trust in the pistol, but that's just too many Army members to deal with. And with that, the break comes in.
40 seconds still left for Army West Point to put them right back in this. Still down 40 or so points if they get it all cleanly. Toledo, though, you know they're not going to give it up. They're going to continue putting clean hits at this, and they'd like to hold this bottom, more so left-hand side of the map as you look towards the next one that goes. But for now, they're focused on the break, and Toxin Ace combining for another fairly clean kill feed. Players spawning out Army West Point, and Toledo caught already cognizant of it, already on rotation, and Army West Point not able to go for scrap.
Yeah, it's just, it feels, again, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but it is the same thing over and over and over again, and that will be something that will need to change for Army, who will be more so needing a full 60 sooner rather than later to get back into this game. Toledo just quicker on the bounce. Even though they really haven't had initial setup at any point in time in this hard point yet, they've done well contesting, and of course, as we continue to kind of reap upon, do well in the scrap time. Army West Point, all 4 members still alive and well around top the rooftops. Ace down low, denied, and that's now the first significant zone that we've been able to see from Army when it comes to creating a little bit of a cushion between the hard point and where exactly Toledo's trying to hit from.
And now just feels the question mark of, well, what's gotten Toledo in these hills? 3 for 1, or maybe all 4 down in the kill feed. Usually starting with this min right here, Toxin, though only 13 and 13, definitely high on engagements around the map. Gets the break for the team, and that's exactly what I was alluding to. Toledo COD behind big plays have been able to get 25 or more seconds, and that's only continuing to stretch their lead as Army have not had a full 60 in quite some time. Toledo COD inching their way ever closer towards the 200-point mark, and inevitably 250 if they can get there. Army West Point, they need to make a stand as these rotations kick back off.
100%. I think at best we could say that they've, done 30-30 splits? We really haven't seen a hard point yet, where Army's been able to pull 40+. And as we get towards the later stages of this first map, that will become a requirement. Wildcat up top, who nearly takes care of Toxin for what would have been 3 in a row. Toxin keeps things relatively neutral for now. Army with numbers, a chance to get into the hill. Salvadori once again reinforcing with the trophy. Pratzo nearby over towards the archways. May try to get a contest over, and there's a lot of Toledo members that are kind of solo peeking. How about it? A 4-man feed comes through, and now the question is, does Army get a read on where Toledo are spawning?
They spawned in 3 out of 4 corners of the map, so
Yeah.
heads on a swivel here for you if you're Army West Point. They're still prioritizing this time. They know how important it is for them. Not only do they need, well, as close to a full 60s they can get on P1, which they're doing a darn good job of for now. They also have to win the rotation to P2. Richie's able to do that in the back and stay alive. His teammates also garnering the last bit of scrap time, but this next hill is going to be very telling of how the rest of this game goes for him.
Hard agree, but as far as job done is concerned, that is a great first step from Army West Point, and you've got 4 members who are still holding on to 4 kill streaks. So potential of earning some late streaks is also in the picture. Richie on 5, Wildcat on 4. Army started to reap in the kill feed. Toledo spawning just to the north side over towards the dining area and that shop's entryway through Chandelier. Salvadori, this stun should be able to connect onto at least one, but actually does not quite get the corner. Not sure if the nades have landed either, but Richie taking the mantle will give the information to his squad mates that the hit, yes, it is coming from Chandelier. Salvadori tested, and it's responded to beautifully, and how about it? Army West Point have been flawless through now a hard point and a half, and they're right back in the game.
Wildcat guy also able to collect streaks. That could be huge breaking. Not maybe kitchen, but you start to look at P4. If you can stretch it that far, would definitely be something that would aid you there. Regardless, time very much going the way of Army West Point. They needed the good response as hills popped, and well, these 2 hills nearly flawless, as you had said. Toledo going to not have a tight setup, but at least with numbers on rotation to P3. These transition gunfights are going to be big for Army West Point, so you don't have to keep hiking across the map.
And you do have the opportunity here, if you want, with Wildcat earning a streak, to possibly call it in. Richie's actually earned his as well, so this is actually a really smart play. Drop in the cruise missile, clear out the back, and then hopefully Richie can just kind of follow up and take the long angle away. That should at least block spawns. Unfortunately, as the cruise missile's called in, though, the only thing it connects with is with a teammate. So while all this is kind of unfolding, Toledo's still been in the hill, accruing a lot of time, over the 215-point mark. Here come Army for the break attempt. Have to have it. Toxin on the way back to reinforce. From the side of Freezer, gets one, runs out of ammunition, and can't quite get the weapon swap off. And with that, Army will secure the break for now.
They can hold on to the rest of this. It should be a tied game, if not a slight lead change in this one. So despite catastrophe, Army West Point are able to hold on, collect themselves, and get the break. Now lining the kills up, holding their pre-aims. A foot race ensuing for P4. Outnumbered across the map. Toledo know what they have to do. They need a big response here because suddenly we've got a game.
We sure do. But it is once more Toledo set up first. A lot of focus towards lobby, but you see the spawn for number 8. Caddick spawns all the way out. Army using his streak to possibly try to clear up the front. Richie on the way in. Should see one for free right below him, and yep, that's indeed the case. Now a chance to kind of just finesse the heady, trying to keep his life for as long as possible while Colo gets into the mix. Toledo a little bit lost on where these gunfights are even occurring at the moment. Caddick is still nearby, and he's done well to take down 2. How about 3? No one secures the trade, so now we go to a neutral hard point, 223 to 219. Wildcat on another spree, this time on 4. Fifth is around the corner, gets in for the contest, and we have a dead tie game, but Wildcat on the killing spree allows Army in.
Both teams can still win it here, but you can test for long enough, and we'll be seeing a P5 as we head back over to Restaurant. For now, Toledo COD still in once again. They're not going to be able to win it here. Neither will Army West Point at this point in the game. You see player 7, player 3 fighting it out in kitchen. Wildcat not ready with the snap. 3 for 1 in the feed. Toledo COD have numbers. No clean setup afforded. Army West Point spawning close. It all comes down to this.
Have to have this break before the hard point opens up. It's Toledo COD who's going to be just a marginal couple of seconds away from a win. Army will have numbers here on rotation. Hard point will open up. Caddick, first blood in towards Ruggs comes through. Now it's just got to be, can anyone even touch this in time at all? The Army just a little too slow. Maybe we need a logistics major somewhere out there because they're just a couple of seconds late to the action, and that will be enough for Toledo to secure the map.
Feels like such a underwhelming ending to how much Army West Point had made that a game, right? That, as you had said, just a bit too slow, a couple steps behind. You said they needed to be there as a hill pop. They weren't quite able to win those gunfights, though they battled back. It ends up being all for naught. Toledo COD hold them off here in map 1.
And a big bounce back. Kind of hesitated to mention it. Colo had a slow start. Still only finished, I think, 20 and 25. I saw the right at the end. So big bounce back, and maybe one of the reasons that Army was able to put together that long stretch of collective hills and mostly just collected time between our first and second hard points back to back, getting it back into the game. But I think we always kind of look at it at any level of COD. We always say it. day late and dollar short, right? I mean, they find themselves down roughly 80+ points in the middle of that second rotation. And when you start to get to the late stages of any hard point in this current game, it's difficult to put together hill after hill after hill and really avalanche the map into your way. So good for Toledo COD to kind of build up that lead early and kind of identify that they're going to get some early scrap time to their name for free. And then past that, just a little bit more discipline on their holds as we got to the final stretches.
As far as slaying goes, I mean, it was about 50-50. Caddick actually is the only player for Toledo COD going positive, so interesting to note there, but also just as interesting to point out that I'll give Ace the 60 seconds, basically everyone with a minute or more on the hill, so everyone willing to do the dirty work, willing to get in and get the job done for the team. As it comes down to a 24-point game, they were willing to go deep and get it done for themselves, and again, great job out of them. They were trading well, winning the kill feed initially, and I think trades were a big part of that as well. Why West Point were able to get back in it. Toledo slowed down in their ability to trade around the map, but as you said, those hills start to compound when you're down 80, 90 or more points. It's harder and harder to respond with full holds, especially in this game, especially on a map like Hotel where you're afforded no free rotation.
Oh no, not at all. Again, it's just because the way I like to call it is like, imagine how you used to draw stars in elementary school. You kind of like do the cross pattern across the corners. Like that's kind of how the hard points are formed, where like you're not just going left to right or north to south. Like you have to cross almost the entire map at certain moments in time. And yeah, those rotations can be very punishing, and we see very regularly the spawns kind of be a subject of that, depending on how the kills go on those rotational moments. So a couple of things in there that, hey, we've learned now. For Toledo, opting to just full afford themselves free scrap time means that they're never really getting initial setups. And as we got deeper and deeper into that map, when they were the first team on their initial setups, not the most convincing holds. We're on the other side, maybe Army West Point thinking a little bit too far ahead of time and not taking enough time to focus on how much time was still available to them after they were successful on their initial hold. So some things to kind of look forward to if we do see a map number 4, but our conversation must change, Cash. I know that you and I could probably go back and forth forever, but we've got Mercado, Search, and Destroy. There is no mixier search in Call of Duty history in my mind than this map right here.
And I have a love-hate with this map on S&D. At times, it can, have some really evolved strategies, some really heads-up high IQ plays, especially in clutch situations, maybe wrapping a bomb, double wrapping. We've seen so many things, but sometimes it can also play, though mixy, it can feel stagnant in the play style. Sometimes it's just all 8 players rushing to the A bomb site, and you throw your nades and tags and see who's left standing after the dust settles. So at times it can be an interesting one to unfold if you lack in those mid-round adjustments. I think that's where teams struggle the most. But it is one where for sure there's going to be lots of tac use, lots of long-range gunfights in that mid-range portion, trying to hold down that mid-map for the A bomb site. And yeah, we'll see who has the better strategy. I think Mercado S&D exploits that a lot for teams after
Agreed.
After those initial gunfights go down. What do you have left? That can't be the only trick in the bag, so we'll see who's a little more prepared today.
And I will say, it's often a case, if you're new to watching college COD, that the level of search and destroy that you're used to seeing, whether it be in the CDL or in Challengers, it often takes a couple of weeks for college COD teams to really kind of build some sort of depth to the playbook. I wouldn't be surprised if we see full 8-man stacks over towards A off the first couple of rounds here. But that said, I always am to counter my own point, I'm always chronically surprised with how much better college COD teams are at the beginning of seasons as we go from game to game to game. So we very well may see something a little bit cheeky out of one of these two squads after watching so many weeks of both the CDL and Challengers. Maybe you've been able to kind of sit there and say, hey, this was a really cool play that Team A was able to pull off. Let's just do that. There's no wrong thing about going about that. I always say drawing inspiration from the best is never bad. So maybe there are some interesting hits that they've seen over towards the B side that we may be able to kind of get a look at here on their offensive side for either of these two squads.
Absolutely, and I think another even angle you can go at about this is, sure, the title's been out for a couple months, but at least as far as these teams starting, this is their first look at live gameplay, right, against their potential opponents. And so, there may be some jitters, there may be some things they're trying to work out that will continue to evolve. So we still are so early on that strategies are nowhere near fully developed, right? We're going to see we could see a completely different Mercado Search and Destroy from now to, you think to May or June and what teams can do. So it's very much in its learning and evolving stage for these squads. And yeah, as you said, maybe for these collegiate teams, you've been watching the pros. What can you pull out? What can you tweak to maybe just hit an unorthodox angle? Maybe sit somewhere where someone could pre-aim and not be expecting. But again, so much to dive into as we look to get into this one soon.
Yeah. Be curious. Lots to learn. And again, the thing about it is you kind of look back over the results for both of these two schools in their first opening qualifier. Both teams kind of had trouble getting off the starting gates. I mean, for Toledo, we already talked about Army West Point. They didn't win a map, unfortunately, in their run. But the interesting thing was that both of these two schools did also drop to the same upper bracket matchup. They both lost to Rowan University. Otherwise, if Toledo would have gotten through Rowan, they would have actually met in the second round of the winners bracket. We're down on the lower side of things. It was the MSU Cyberhawks that ended up taking down Toledo in 3-0 fashion. Quickly, as you would anticipate, though, right over into round number 1. It's Toledo. Yep, it's a full 8-man hit over towards A. And Toledo have come away the victors of the opening gunfights, leaving us with a 2v3 with Army needing to respond.
Now, they've wrapped back. You're just going to have Caddick watch tunnels. You look to get this bomb plant down, and the retake so challenging here. Sure, no one has trophy systems, so maybe that'll give you an advantage as Richie is able to use his tack with the stun and fly around the corner to get the kill. Now at 2v2, but so much to clear out, so much to work through in Cantina to try to find these kills with time left.
Still a chance, though, for Salvadori, who's going to be very noisy throughout the entirety of this, to possibly open up some space. Does that nade land up top? It does. So now you can isolate the 1v1. And Salvadori, I think he just kind of got a little bit bamboozled because his hit markers were on his teammates, even though he didn't predict the correct corner. Tough scenes overall, but Toledo COD will survive through it, and you'll see the final 2 kills from Ace's perspective.
Right idea. Execution not as sound as you would have liked, but the information there at the very least. Toledo walk away with round number 1 in a very traditional opening round of Mercado, right? You bully at the A site, win the numbers game, and there you go. I think maybe a good thing for Toledo that beyond the round win is, well, Ace found 3 in that round, so definitely something that you want to keep an eye on. What can he find continuously? Because again, if you can work streaks on Mercado, S&D streaks are weird, right? Because there's hardly, a perfect time to use them, but at the very least, you get that information. That's still quite a ways away. Now as Army get their chance over towards the A site, and a more even map spread coming in from Toledo here.
How about this, though? Toxin has gone completely unknown around the back, although he doesn't see the second player down low in the bar, so the trade is fine for Army. That's actually not bad at all, considering the circumstances. Everything comes to a bit of a pause. 60 seconds. Bomb needs to be collected, but we stay 3v3.
Colo maybe trying to extend here. Get timing on a player, possibly playing hedge. He's going to get the call out from his teammate and able to collapse on that. Now we should see them scooping bomb, but Pratt is able to get one from tunnel playing top Cantina. So Salvadori's going to fall. Still no bomb collected yet, and Pratt's watching the cross, so they know play should be being made here. And you've got Caddick as that safety net playing deep. What can you find here, or can you get out with your life, if anything, if you're Colo?
Well, Caddick now the last one left as Colo's able to get just enough help from Richie. I'm not planted yet, though, and if they cross this, Caddick gets a chance. Has he seen anything? Pistol out. They line up. Oh, my goodness. He nearly doubles up with the pistol, but the firepower just a bit better on the Army side. It was a little too close for comfort. Regardless of it, we get tied at 1.
I'll tell you, if that was the rat, I think that's a round going the way of Caddick.
Agreed.
That fire rate suppression on these pistols is no joke, but definitely a valiant effort. And now, at least able to draw things up 1-1 if you're Army, though on a less well-executed offensive attempt, still a round win nonetheless. So we'll see what adjustments are made as Toledo get their second crack at offense. Is it going to be the same type of thing, bully ball towards the A site? It's looking to be the case for now. And what do Army do in response?
Getting aggressive. They actually want to get into Cantina. These nades are late from Toledo. It actually allows 2 members for Army West Point just to walk in. Uh-oh, that nade's a little puzzling. I think it actually still snuck through the door, though. So the first floor has been won by Army. The stun does not land into any contestants up top, and Wildcat has to back away. Shrugs off the stun effects, no worries. But Toledo have gained a bit of breathing room for a time. I say that with hesitation because Colo's actually able to take a 1v1 versus Ace, and now pressure is immediately back onto the shoulders of Toledo.
Kind of trapped in top Cantina, seeing if someone will give anything away, and Richie's been completely out of the play, just trying to make sure no one slips through if anyone is not accounted for in Cantina. So it really is just a 2v3. Toledo don't know it yet, and boy, do they have minimal information to work off of as they try to get towards the site.
Quick play from Caddick. That is bold, but it works out. That's just a touch unfortunate. Would have still been hard-pressed to make the 2v3 happen in such limited amount of time left, but it's one of those things like, okay, let's talk about that a little bit more next time before we make this play. Maybe the nade goes first, the player goes second, or vice versa. Hard to say. Regardless, though, Army West Point taking an edge in this very early stages of the search and destroy. Marginal at that. We'll see what they have to offer in their next offense.
And they absolutely won that round off of very quick aggression behind the late thrown nades. Again, does Toledo try to take a page out of their book and execute the same thing? B-site usually isn't one we see this early on. It's one teams will think about to pull out of the back pocket later, but Toledo still paying respect to it. I like that out of them. Stuns nade's going to try to connect. You already have player 2 and Toxin trying to slip through. Do they have him accounted for this time around? The door shuts. Oh, man.
Changes the route.
Twice. Oh, yeah.
This time he says, second floor seems better than the first. That silence assists into play. And, okay, that's one of those situations where fool me once, shame on me. But fool me twice, we need to go back to the lab. There, I think you can't let Toxin slip through 2 separate rounds. And now the cross has been seen. Ace is going to call this out. Pratso's going to be at high alert, waiting for this cross in to be an Army West Point. Just do not have any ground to work with.
You're running into pre-aims. Any corner you decide to turn from here on out, Pratso might be able to line up both, but maybe tries to get the eyes on Colo, doesn't. And ends up getting taken down as well, so a little bit of misfire, a little split between 2 players, and now suddenly a 2v2 with site control. What can he do with 20 seconds left? They're not comfortable enough to get this bomb down. Still want to clear out some more, but that only lets Toledo get into play. They might be going for the double wrap.
How about this? As Kadek heard it, though. In the corner, he's going to have an idea. Pistol again. Patience will pay off this time. And now he gets an SMG. He gets away. 13 seconds. Do you play for the kill? Do you play for the plant? Kadek on 4 health has to wait for the regen. Wildcat going to stick for the plant, and Kadek will not predict it. So the clock will reset to 45 seconds. And the 1v1, similarly so, will be paused for a moment. No more dead silence for either player. Kadek has snuck in through tunnel. Wildcat is clearing elbow. Has this been heard? Guns are up. Kadek wins the gunfight. And Toledo COD keep us tied.
All 4 of our rounds have looked different, and we're still handshaking them through 4. It's a nice 1v1 clutch there from Kadek to get them a response. And boy, I mean, the trigger discipline to let both run by. Chow the second knows he's instantly going to go scoop the sub. Somehow still gets out with his life. A great in-game IQ coming out from Kadek to bounce back there.
Wow. Holy. And the handshake of rounds, this is more like a very complicated secret handshake of rounds, because they have not been convincing from either side in any regard. It's been very unpredictable, as most
figure it out as we go.
Yeah, exactly. That's how every good secret handshake starts. We'll just figure it out as we go.
We'll land on something, and it ends with the fist bump explosion. That's all we know. So
true.
I think that's a perfect way to sum up Mercado so far.
I like it. Army once again freely into the bottom of Cantina. This is a problem for Toledo. Olo doesn't have to do anything more besides just sit here, if we're being honest with one another. Wildcat's frag nade going to bounce off the walls. It will not land. There are Toledo members nearby, but with the numbers advantage, I think most players would say, we're fine with this. Let's just play little cruddy 1v1 corners, win our ones, and then win the round.
With Toxin slipping through the line on their offensive tries defensive tries for Toledo, and Army getting into Cantina for free on their defensive goes. Neither team showing much willingness to adjust. And now it puts you in quite the bind as you hear Daddy get popped, you hear them trying to make a play towards site, but as soon as Colo wants to open this door, I mean, he could very well have free kills in the back.
Sure could. You still have the opportunity for Salvatore number 5 in yellow to kind of watch for any plants, and now Colo gets activated. A big problem for Toledo COD. Salvatore backing away. Ace is trying to chase. Gets the 1v1 he wants, but that is a very difficult fight to take. And Pratso without a bomb in 18 seconds. This is like what I like to call, it's not just up a creek without a paddle, it's up a creek without a boat. That's why.
Yeah, very hard for him to be able to do. I mean, West Point defensively, their aggression not having been countered. And again, we keep posing the question, but until you see teams make adjustment, you still sit puzzled at, do you recognize or do you at least play around the fact Toxin or another player could slip through alley and get in the back door of Cantina, because then that could give you your first, 2 or so round separation here. Put you that much closer to match point, of course. And again, you're looking, without confidence, right? You're looking solid enough. You're keeping yourself in the lead, but like you said, I can't say any of these have been executed flawlessly. It's just you squeaked out the round win by getting numbers or winning a big 1v1, but nothing has looked super good. Now you slow down the aggression, and Army West Point look to get a little more set up here.
And this is peculiar. You often see in the CDL and Challengers level, when you get those nades to tag, you know that you should be able to work your way into bottom Cantina and win it if you're on the offensive side. Not the case, though. Army West Point just kind of hit the brakes right on the outside portions of the front cantina doors. Fortunate to still get trades. Toxin continued to be a slippery little devil in and out of the cantina, but Salvadori puts together a response finally for Toxin's problems. Now a 3v2, but Wildcat, off his dead silence, is still leaning B. And if he drops the bomb over here off an off angle from Pratso, that could possibly be the worst case scenario for Army West Point, who will not know it, Cash, but they've got pretty much a vacant A site.
Absolutely. And you're also challenging this with a Vaznev. Pratso holding an angle that a Vaznev will not or should not win. And unless Wildcat can turn this corner and get better timing, this should not be a round going the way of Army West Point. Pratso is able to snap once he hears the player stand up. And as you said, bomb in no man's land and then some. You have to split. You have to try to work around, but you don't know where these players are. And you're going to be walking into pre-aims from here on out. Yeah,
that's one of those Pavlov dog type situations where you're conditioned so often that this A zone has been almost impossible to get through, that even off of getting even trades, you still think it's not an option for you. That's just one of those that you look back on and you say, okay, I made a bad call, made a bad decision. We can turn that around next time through. But offensively, both teams kind of struggling for one reason or another. And you feel like eventually that pattern should change. Just comes down to who finds the change and when.
I think it's lack of execution around the site. We've seen, one bomb planted, and that was clutched up by Toledo on defense as Caddick was able to win that 1v1. But I just think it's a lack of objective play, not putting any kind of pressure on the defensive side to have to take with numbers. It's always been a 1v1 when the bomb's finally getting talked about, or as we saw on the top side of the map, a 1v1 between players to try and get it down. Now we see our first no bars hold hit over towards this B side, and the only player left to get eyes on it is Richie, and he's able to connect with one, so that should be intel to the rest of the team that, hey, this push is coming on, and now what lanes did they have to fill through?
And I love this. Perfect time for a curveball after Toledo COD had been so heavy-handed towards A. Get a little feel towards what's happening on the other side of the map, which Army's response will have to be by way of a retake. You've got a long flank developing from Wildcat. This route will feel familiar. He was just here a round ago. Colo from the front only has a Vaznev. This is not an angle that you want an SMG. And Salvadori, who is one of the TAC players, is playing through mid-cut and just misses the mantle. Ace will collect a free kill. Salvadori looking to put together some sort of a trade. And here comes Wildcat Guy. He does predict the corner, but doesn't quite see Pratso hiding in the shadows. And Toledo COD will break up the trends of all defense as they now go 2 in a row, up 4-3.
And out of Army West Point, I get they were trying to do a three-prong attack to maybe hit it from different angles. The timing wasn't poor. I mean, it was 3 1v1s is what it boiled down to, and I just don't know that that was the optimal way to retake the site, especially because they didn't all hit out a lane at the same time, or even their respective lanes at the same time.
Sure.
You just let Toledo stay stagnant. You let them make the reads of, okay, we got one back alley. Let's have a look secret or dark, and okay, now let's have a look at the flank as well. So a little too one-dimensional out of Army defensively, and as you said, Toledo, they were afforded 2 rounds in a row, an offensive round, and just 2 from closing this one out.
This time, how about this? Army West Point getting aggressive down low in Cantina. I like the call. Step on in. See what's going on. Toxin for a long-range trade, but this has got to be one of those situations awareness-wise. Army West Point says, okay, that was an SMG at range. There's no way anyone else is close. Now that Richie's gotten a look at Toxin, that will push back potential extra aggression, forcing Toxin to have to use his dead silence to play deep. Bomb hasn't moved yet, though. That's the curious thing about this. It still feels like Army West Point are making a decision on whether or not they want to commit here.
Yeah, as you said, they just lack the decisiveness, right? Whether that be due to a lack of confidence or lack of their own clearing out assurance. I think now with player 7 and Colo kind of getting ahead and saying, okay, I don't see anyone hedges. Now they might work towards this, but it's a matter of Toxin. When Toxin wants to strike, when he gets information, I don't think Army West Point will be ready for it, and they're getting chopped down even without that help.
Yeah, Wildcat's going to have to stretch this. Or find Ace on an angle where he shoulder checks. You have to push that. Oh, Wildcat backs down. Now he's going to try to plant. Good help from Richie over top. And actually, Toxin's not going to hit the flank. He's going to come through tunnel, and that timing actually allows Wildcat to get the regen and reposition. Ace under threat has to back down. But Toxin has made his way up through tunnel, and once again, it's just these 50-50 chels. It takes a lot to commit to. You look left, you look right. Stun check will not reveal anything. The onus on Toledo COD. Have to go. Good prediction from Ace. Even a couple of shots landing. Toxin following up, but completely mixed and crossed up by the player up top in Army West Point. How about it? We go from all defense to 2 straight offenses for both of our teams.
And that's the execution around the bomb side. I was saying objective play maybe needed to dabble in it a little bit more. Here, both teams. Not the cleanest bomb plants, but either way, objective. And the clock start to work against the defense, forces them out of hiding. They're able to win the round about it. Or excuse me, the round with that. Now both 2 rounds away. A dead even game. As far as kills go, I mean, a quick glance at the scoreboard, all of it's looking kind of the same up and down. No one really having a standout performance, as you were alluding to, with, you know, just the lack of confidence in some of these play calls. And now you get top control again, and it's Army in the bottom, and what one do you fight?
Okay, Wildcat, first blood, more to come, gets the second. And now Army West Point in a very commanding position, not just on the round, but more importantly, inside a cantina. And it's going to force some very difficult choices for Toledo COD, where honestly speaking, well, I was going to say, you're going to have to kind of force yourself into some tough gunfights, but Bratzo stepped right into his own nades, and that will be enough for Army West Point to put themselves on the map. Point just comes down to, can they close it out here on another offense?
Runs of 2 rounds at a time, so who knows? Maybe Toledo bounce back with 2 straight and take it. Or Army, as you said, do they have enough ice to close this one out on an offensive attempt? These rounds have played nearly the exact same, barring the B hit or maybe the one adjustment that was made. It's so strange, as you were calling, that one team likes to take top to Cantina offensively and the other will take bottom on the defensive approach. Army West Point nades over the top, flying forward. Toledo once again sending a body over towards the B site. You get Cantina control, more passive approach out of Toledo to start. But to me, it's the lack of decisiveness in getting over to this A site.
And I believe Caddick is sniping from that back alley now in mid position. Yeah, that's definitely a longer weapon than your normal pack. Toxin down low just gets a free challenge, and Toxin for the double right through the cafe tables. One more up top will at least allow the trade for Army West Point, but be careful how you peek this. Caddick is watching every window.
Bomb is down as well, and not the worst spot, but one where you're going to have to pop Deddy and try to make a play. And as you can see, Pratzo creeping closer and closer, clearing out more and more of the map. Army West Point soon. If you don't make a play, you will be trapped in the site.
Like a little pensive on trying to chow. Does get a peek. Unfortunate. The hit marker blocked largely by the cinder blocks of the cantina. Colo actually has a little cheeky angle on towards A. So now we get to a 2v2. Bomb should be collected, no worries. But Pratzo on the flank. Oh, how about that? Colo may get the call that he's 1 HP, takes the chow. Now we're down to a 1v1, and Colo's going to play through mid. That's Caddick on a pistol. He's been good with it before, and he's seen the cross. Now he's got dead silence. Should be able to catch him on the plant, and will be able to do just that. How about a round 11?
Great patience out of Caddick once again in the mid-map just to get the eyes on the cross. Not go too quick. Pop steady and makes another clutch for the team, as you said, to force a round 11. That's the second 1v1 where, again, they very much needed it. No super crazy stat line, but making the plays when his team needs them.
Wow. Okay. Who's got what? Toledo on the offense. Army on the defense. It's been a defensively sided affair so far, but Toledo have shown some gaps, largely towards B. They've got something in mind heading that direction. Wildcat's going to be playing inside of 10. I think he actually eludes the majority of the utility on the way in. No, he does get concussed, hit by a stun, so he's got to kind of forfeit some position inside 10 itself. Head silence pop, checks, no one on for the plant. Teammates throwing utility over the top to try to assist, but the first blood has continued to be delayed. And now Wildcat's seen everything. He knows the commitment's going to be here towards B, but only takes down one. Toxin with his 10th kill opens a chance for Toledo to work towards B for a plant.
Still not sure who could be lurking. No one home for Army West Point. Richie, maybe the only one able to watch a sliver of this bomb.
Yeah.
And they aren't taking up any other portion of the map. So I think for Army, I think this is a miscue on them for not clearing out and getting more real estate for themselves, because now you're wondering where Toledo COD are. It's just back to this mid-game shuffle and stagnant play of who's where and who's going to give anything first. Clock going to force Toledo's hand before anything else. Army looking to take a 3v3 retake with how they're set up.
And Ace is not committed for the plant yet. He's got space to get the bomb down. Pratzo just very weary about what's in mid-map. Oh, that's just a key piece of time. He catches Richie before the opposite was true. Salvadori for the trade gets us to a 2v2. 40 seconds on the clock. Bomb down and planted. Ace up top is going to play a clutch position. Just hold his life. And hopefully let Toxin throw shoulders. So Ace is actually looking like the one who's going to check the bomb time and time again. Colo on the jump. Clears out the front side of courtyard. Here comes Salvadori trying to assist. Colo has to clear up the second floor. Actually, they find Ace beforehand, leading it just down to Toxin. 1v2 situation. He gets a look at Colo, but the gunfight is won with just enough time for the defuse. Army West Point take their first map in their qualifying run. We'll get tied up at one map apiece.
Another 1v1, and yes, Toledo had holes in their game plans on offense over at the B site, and once again, just some weird positioning out of Ace being the one checking the bomb. Army West Point able to win the 2v2 retake over at the site. And as you said, draw the series up one apiece now to go back to another respawn on, well, Hotel.
Yeah. Man, what an affair this has been so far, though. Hey, honestly speaking, Cash, this has been a tight series through 2 maps. Really close affair on the hard point. Just one of those situations that Toledo's early advantages were a bit too significant to overcome. But here in the Search and Destroy, back and forth, defense for defense, offense for offense, all the way to around 11, where Army West Point get us tied up in the series at 1. Cash, you mentioned it. It's going to be Hotel Control, but we have to step away, check out some replays, give some love to our sponsors. We'll be back after that for map number 3. Don't go anywhere. You're watching College Guy. Welcome back to College COD and our first of 3 different upper bracket qualification matches in our second regional qualifier. We've got Army West Point and Toledo COD. They're locked into a good one. 1-1 through 2 after really 2 tight affairs for different reasons, as we kind of alluded to, Cash, as we were heading up for breaks. But with that, we guarantee ourselves not just the hotel control next, but also the Fortress Hardpoint. Any kind of indication towards maybe which things we should be looking out for in either of these 2 maps?
Yeah, so I mean, for hotel control, the map, of course, is still going to play similar on a respawn, right? Taking map control and having a way to work side to side and really anticipate where the offensive team's next push is coming from is going to be important in this next map. As you said, we're guaranteed it here. And then for Fortress as well, this is one where you kind of blow the doors off of things at times. We've had pretty up and down standard gameplay. You said you test your fundamentals here. It's really kind of testing your instinct and what your gut call is going to be on some of these. When these Fortress Hardpoints go down to the wire, they really come down to ability to snap the kills and make split-second decisions. So that one I'm excited for. I'm excited we're guaranteed one of those scrappier maps. And yeah, that'll definitely blow things off the series. If we haven't already, as you said, we've played things very close so far. This is kind of going to show who's got that just raw game takeover ability.
And I think here's the thing is, as we're now kind of conditioned and learned from the CDL and challengers about how this map is probably the most balanced when it comes to offense versus defense, the decisions that have to come through to make sure you're actually capitalizing on things like stacking the B zone offensively are not necessarily as easy as I think we're all kind of just giving natural credit to. You still have to come out and really make sure that you're controlling the right amount of space before you decide to stack. You know, being able to manipulate spawns is very important when it comes to this particular control map, and we'll see it on both sides, because you can obviously take over defensive bedroom control. That'll force your offensive spawns all the way to the top left. You don't want to be there, but the same can be said offensively. You get in towards Spa, and all of a sudden the defense is spawning all the way out behind Chandelier, which is never great news from a defensive side. So there are really kind of 2 different things when it comes to high level awareness that we can really look into as we dig in to map number 3. 1-1 affair. Toledo COD, though, starting off on the offense, and they've got eyes for B, Cash.
More and more, you start to see teams get a look at B where you can. Because it's closer to home at times until Army starts influencing spawns, you can kind of throw a couple more resources at it to see what look you can get. But once that clock gets to about that 50-55 second mark, maybe you'll see teams start to change their mind, depending on the success they've found so far. Push looking good with Pratzo looking over the top for Toledo over at this B site.
First progress locked, second on the way. Army West Point, though, with numbers, stuns, nades, all landing. Pratzo low, but still confirms on an elimination. Now the second tick in, and the plays through Spa. Shut down Salvadori, last one left, not going to catch anything. And in the process, Cash, how about this? Toledo only dropped 3 lives, so it's a 27 playing 23, 2 minutes a clock, and just the A site to capture if you're a Rocket fan.
Offensively, this could be the best case scenario. Force a team to play very stout defense for over 2 minutes, make them make mistakes. It's very hard for Army to have to hold this for 2 minutes without giving up a 4 down, or as you said, a 4 down at times is not enough, but 4 to 6 kills, getting Toledo caught access to this A site. For now, Toledo looking to feel it out, try to find where their soft spot is around the map, and you've got all your lanes covered if you're Army, and you're winning the gunfights to go with it.
Absolutely, you are. Good prediction from Colo, but Pratzo still wins the gunfight. Colo's going to be scratching his head on that one, I imagine. I'm right there with you, brother. Thought you had enough to land for the kill, but not to be. Tack is pretty strong. So now onto the zone go Toledo with space to reinforce through kitchen. And this route that you're seeing from Colo may be able to block those spawns, but he's a little bit late to the punch. First tick of progress is in. Team nade will make things a little bit easier on Army, but only marginally so. Salvadori working with Wildcat. Last one's left. Second tick of progress. Nearly locked in, and Wildcat's going to forfeit it in favor of waiting for help to try to stop the zone from being completed in its entirety. But already halfway through the third tick of progress, Toledo have numbers. They're still stacked on for this. Wildcat has to make the play. Contest is through. He's got a little bit of assistance, but has to essentially finish it off himself and will be unable to do so. Toledo take the capture and the round.
You had just talked about sometimes it's not as simple as stacking the point. You need to find other kills with positioning around the map, and Toledo take that and they say, here, we'll show you something different. They do really the counter to the point you were giving. They didn't have all that much map control. On their opening break, they had Pratzo top bedroom overlooking, which is still a crucial point to be, but as far as influence of spawns go, they always had a body on the point, and Army not winning the trades, and that ends up hurting you as the time is never dwindling and they're always earning progress. Of course, Caddick out to 8-2, Pratzo 5-2 as well. Nothing to shake your head at there. Toledo COD with a stout first round win and hoping to make a good defensive stand.
Army not really in any sense of urgency looking to go towards either zone. Kind of feeling things out through mid-map. Wildcat nearby over through A. Nice little double off screen from Colo. That will kind of make life easy on the rest of the offense to make their way in. And how about the start from Colo? 3 kills now through mid-map. The full stack is in quickly for Army. Richie saying, okay, you guys are good there. Let me see if I can take some reservations at the front desk. Pratso says, we're a walk-in. Make room for us, please. Our table should be open. Second tick of progress in, third on the way, and it looks like Army should be able to capitalize on this without too much cause for concern, but Toledo have at least mitigated the damage by keeping the backline safe.
And to take your line from this point last round, Army West Point only losing 3 lives on that push to A. Though not as drastic or dramatic as maybe what you'd expect to lose at the B site, A seems to be more of the gimme either way. Only just losing their 4th life here with quite the advantage as they're trying to work through the back for this B push, and that is about as great as you can influence spawns if you're Army West Point for the Toledo side. A pinch developing on the hill. Last 2 players left standing. Can you capitalize on the kills that you have here? 1 last player standing, but of course, it's the stout Caddick who hasn't fallen yet. 1 off streaks here.
5 in a row. That is bold from Caddick. He gets all 6. Okay. Cruise missile earned 12 and 2 start. What an unbelievable defensive play. Essentially confirming the full 1v4. Now Ace is in the mid-map through couches. He'll be stunned. Good prediction from Army, but they don't actually get the double chout through. It's Ace who lines him up. Maybe a bit tucked into the corner more so than Army anticipated. And that all of a sudden flips the life lead back to Toledo's defense.
And look who gets to run around Bedroom and cause havoc. You see Toxin's arrow flying around, trying to shoot players in the side or any which way. If his teammates don't get him first, he's there for the cleanup, able to get to another as well. Toledo COD get to play the style of COD that I would say through the first couple maps we've seen them be accustomed to, right? They want to fly around frantic, just like in the hard point. You want to get Toxin activated, especially the routes he's taking in Search and Destroy. That's what they're doing here. Army West Point, you cannot start single channeling these lanes. You need to still coordinate as a team. Enough time left for some, enough live left for some pushes. That time, they're starting to be eaten away.
Yeah, I was about to say the clock is starting to become a little bit under threat, considering that Army just do not have a lot of ground to work with here. Some space gained, though, through mid. Plus, you've got Colo on the zone stopping the clock, so this is kind of winning the war on 2 fronts, so to speak. Colo down low, okay, takes 1 for free, and now it's down to the last 2 defenders kind of on the site here for Toledo. Colo still wrecking things up, 5 in a row for him. Predicting someone up top towards Bedroom, doesn't need to have that prediction, though, because everything's going to have to come from the front, and Toledo are just getting picked apart 1 by 1. Colo's still alive on the killing spree. Finally, the challenge comes through, and Pratso takes care of the potential cruise missile, but a lot of damage still has been done here. Chance for Army to get back on. Second tick of progress is quickly in as 2 members are stacked. Stuns, nades, all coming through. Richie over to the backside of the desk. Not going to be able to do too much. And the contest is going to be there. Colo does get to the Wildcat around the back. He just has to take these last 2 single-handedly. The first one collected. Not going to win the last 1v1. 5v5 situation. But it's down to the last 6 seconds. Ace off the regen. Opposite side of the cushions from Colo. Shot still coming through, back and forth. Pinch rip goes to kill feed. Got to stay on the zone. It's just down to 1 on the other side. Toxin for a 1v3. The clock may be his biggest ally, though, and as he makes his step forward, he's denied any entry. And Army respond with an offense of their own.
Very back and forth at the tail end of things. I like the investment of the streak. You earn it and you call it in. Knowing how important these offensive rounds can be, Colo invests it wisely. They get the round win there by, well, taking it out at the tail end of things. Now we're drawn up. Hey, once again, 1-1, right? If there's one thing these teams know how to do, it's play these maps in modes 50-50.
Sure feels that way for one reason or another. Boy, this has been an exciting first round matchup for Qualifier 2s. Okay. Caddick, the rest of Toledo. Once again, designs towards B early. Caddick making sure no one plays over through Brickside. First blood good for Toxin, who's had a slow start so far, but don't expect that to hold. Army still resilient from the backline, though. Find the kills needed to make sure Toledo cannot stay on this point itself. And as Pratso kind of is just sitting here minding the Bedroom, really not much of a second effort for Toledo towards B, so off spawn, they'll start to head over towards the dining room.
Big victory for Army West Point to not give up the same push twice. Now they get to clear out this map, take some real estate, and try to find some kills to get back towards A. Toledo COD not going to make it easy. You still have Richie through the back that could be a threat through Freezer. We'll see what he can find, but the rest of the team, with how quickly the progress bar is getting crude, they're going to give it up here, but a couple kills might make them second guess that and work back over Richie for the third, and suddenly we've got ourselves a hold.
1 HP is all that he needed. We have a big hold indeed. Army West Point now stretching into kitchen with defenders in front of the B site as well. Toledo COD have so many problems to work through. Not all that great. Richie. Oh, how about the transfer from Richie? Nice little double once again denies Toledo any entry offensively. Wildcat just behind him, has Toxin in front. The nade does not fully land, but Toxin cannot get onto the zone, so the clock continues to tick away. 1v1 for the point. One by Wildcat, and Toledo are left to have to try to stack onto B.
Fortunately, they have slipped the line, but Salvador, when he wants to connect, he should be able to. Never mind Pratzo, cutting him down. All of your players here. How quickly can Army rat back, and how quickly can he get this stack on? Toledo COD not comfortable with it, and therefore not earning progress quickly. Army back in the mix.
Yep, and the kills are coming through. Pratzo Toxin still working for the B zone. First pick did get locked in. Now progress happening towards the second. Colo at range. He's had an incredible map number 3. But does not single-handedly win the defense. Caddick, the last maybe opportunity to keep this clock stopped. Maybe even to add an extra 60 to it. And he's gotten through onto a pretty key position with trophies to keep him safe. Great nades behind this. Now the stack can start to come out. Richie through mid-map takes care of one offender of Toledo, but it's still 2 members that are on. This can still be captured very quickly. But behind, he doesn't see the third player, but Wildcat cleans it up. It nearly was the full 60. Contest still in, maybe still a chance, but the depletion creates a little bit of space, meaning that Caddick has to get it done himself, and as he falls, so likely will the chances for Toledo to desperately find an extra 60 seconds, and Army West Point secure our first defense, now up 1.
I think that came down to Army winning. You know, you think whenever you get B cleared, how quickly you have to transition back to A. They were able to win both of those sequences of gunfights, and from there, as you said, they got into kitchen. They were able to take away so much of the map, and Toledo not able to, as a team, or with much confidence or deliverance, figure out enough of the map to get comfortable with the time, forcing them to fly out of bedroom, fly to the positioning, and they committed completely towards the B site. Maybe the tougher of 2, but was where they were spawning.
Yeah.
Not quite given the choice. Now Army sitting at match point to go up 2-1 in the series here. What can they do offensively?
What a map from Colo, 24 and 13. As Army West Point's breakoff is super successful. Through mid, through B, finding success everywhere all at once. 3-man stack. And you can see Toledo, they do not want to give this up, with the trophy system keeps them safe from all the incoming utility. Caddick on the back also concussed and stunned, and the hit is just not here in time. 60 seconds already added, and Army are going to stick around to try to win the gunfights to follow. More so because they're forced to, maybe less of the actual option of it, but they do come out on top of that as well, and Army West Point looking all roses here, at least so far through round 4.
Player 5 and 8, Colo, Salvadori, working through the Toledo spawn side of things, not letting Toledo give all of their players directly towards this A site. Now it's going to be a 2-2 hit, make that 2 through the front as Caddick is able to cut them down. And you have to make a big stand now for Toledo COD to stay alive here in this map. Another 90-second hold you have to make, and trade effectively is going to be really mission number 1 for him.
My goodness. Still the kills come out largely in favor of Army. Now the Black Knights ride on in towards A. Richie through mid, shut down, so a chance for Toledo to get here, but it's a 2-man stack, so the first tick of progress likely already done and gone. How do you work your way back in? Now a third member is on. The second tick coming very rapidly. Still kills, turning up in favor of Army. This could be the winning gameplay right here. Ace from the corner would have to get around the edge, but he's just not going to get here in time. Third tick of progress is rapidly on the way. The contest is not there in time. The kill was there to follow just in case. And Army West Point take our first relatively convincing map, so to speak, here in the series. And the swing map now tilted to a 2-1 series for Army's favor.
I think those last 2 rounds were very telling of when this Army team can find confidence and really execute their plays well. They do, as you said, look like a convincing team and one that can take things handily. I mean, Colo at 13 and 14, yeah, that's definitely the standout performance that, you're going to look at and say, hey, that's probably something that gave them quite the edge there in that control. And as you said, take it convincingly in 3-1 fashion. Toledo never looked comfortable on either side of the coin.
Yeah, I mean, the opening offense looked good, right? I mean, we were kind of sitting there like,
Yeah.
okay, they're stacking, they're finding the kills. I mean, their initial opportunity to get onto B was very successful, but both teams surprisingly had a little bit of trouble on the defensive front, working their way around the B zone and then kind of transitioning between the two. Even for a moment, kind of going back to that first round, hey, Army Esports did a pretty solid job for a while, holding their defense over towards A. So definitely some things for both teams to kind of look back upon and try to improve on when it comes to defending this B zone. But I think this was more so a credit to how good the offensive sides were for both teams rather than the defending sides. Because even in that last round 4, I mean, Toledo COD was fractions of a bit of progress away from getting the extra 60 on the B zone. So ultimately speaking, I'm still kind of overall pretty impressed with both teams on their offensive attempts, at least at B.
Absolutely. I think Toledo COD also hurt themselves more so, and well, their first round and maybe in the half of the next round to follow, they were slaying and finding kills well, but I think Army West Point started not only finding clean kill feeds, you just lose that ability for Toledo to trade effectively. You let Colo go on sprees like that. They had a couple streaks to work with, but they only ended up using Colos in that round in which he earned it. And from there, couldn't quite have enough steam to get out. I mean, this life advantage here, right? Nearly 10 lives in that round. Another 8 life advantage here. One where Army, after round 1, found themselves with a constant advantage, at least as far as kills go.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, again, Colo had a really slow start to the opening hardpoint. He stepped up. That was maybe the big catalyst for Army West Point getting back into the game in the first place. But here, it was just all action from the word go. 30 and 14. That is a massive stat line. And then you throw on the, extra little bit of icing on the cake. 26 of those kills non-traded. 22 offensive kills. Wait. I know sometimes the stats don't pull correctly, but that might be right. If that's the case, that's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Big shouts, big gas to Colo for an unbelievable performance here on the Hotel Control.
Absolutely. And again, I think on the other side of that, you can kind of give the counter to Toxin, who had a stout map 1 and 2 performance. Not quite getting it done here in the Control, and that's of course always going to hurt you whenever you have someone you can kind of rely on. You can tell with how players move around the map, right? If their team relies on them to make some plays, make some moves. If you don't have a high slaying performance, that can definitely hinder more so than help, and that's the case for Toledo here. So if he has any better of a performance, this could have gone round 5 and beyond. Yeah. Either way, Army West Point take advantage of what's in front of them and give themselves a series lead.
And with that, now we get into one of the more electric, if not unpredictable maps in the pool. Fortress Hardpoint for map number 4. Army West Point looking to ride through 3 straight maps, whereas for Toledo, it's all about trying to get to that El Asilo search and destroy, where who knows what will happen at that point in time, because both teams had different kind of instances of vulnerabilities through Mercado. Not to say that those are one-for-one maps, but you just never know if the search and destroy is going to continue to be kind of one-sided, either defensively or offensively, who comes out on top of that. But here's the thing we do know for a fact. If Army West Point continue to play Fortress Hardpoint like they did on Hotel, you assume the same issues will possibly be a deterrent towards them finishing this in 4. As much as I think you look towards that rotation between Gallows and Fountain saying, okay, if you give up some significant scrap time at Gallows to win the rotation to Fountain, you can get away with that. But here's the thing. Toledo's been really quick at locking in scrap time and putting pressure on rotation, forcing the spawns to be a little all over the place. So for me, I'm kind of looking for Army West Point to be able to evaluate what was causing them issues on that first hard point, especially in the first rotation of hills, and just stick on the hard point a little while longer. Wait to rotate until you're at like the 15 or 18 second marker rather than the 25 or 20 second marker.
And I think that adds pressure to Army West Point whenever you can look at the math and say, oh, give up 20 for a full 60, as you said,
sure,
from Gallows
right.
to Fountain. Sure, that sounds like good math, but as you said, with someone like Toledo applying constant pressure from the front or whatever angle they want to when spawns get hairy, it puts pressure on you to, we put all of our eggs in one basket to get a full 60 here, and suddenly we're going 40. So now we went 40 for 40 through the last couple of hills, and, time splitting a bit more evenly than we had anticipated. So I think it added unnecessary pressure to Army West Point. As you said, if they can even reel that back 7 to 10 seconds, I think they're sitting in a much better position and perhaps winning that game, where instead of having to come back from a deficit and losing by 24, they can probably swing that a little more in their favor. But for Toledo, their key to success, as we were just talking about, is their all-around pressure around the map. They never gave up anything easy for Army West Point. Army had to get a clean rotation and a setup in order to garner the front 40 that they had been seeking since P1 whenever Hotel had started. So Toledo know what they need to do. Fly on the map. Toxin needs to have a better map here in a respawn.
Agreed.
And I think if they can keep things mixy and unpredictable, Toledo could be looking at a similar or more dominant scoreline, especially on a map like Fortress.
I'm glad that you put a little bit of a shine over towards Toxin's direction, because, yeah, he had a little bit of a rougher control compared to the divisiveness that we kind of had on display through the Search and Destroy, even through the first map as well. But on a map like Fortress, you look towards your key playmaking subs to be your follow-up entries, to get those breaks confirmed, what she was so good at Hotel, or more importantly, winning back space. I'm thinking like bottom art as Cannon starts to open up, or inside maps when Fountain starts to open up. You need to lock down those positions, and I think you're right to kind of put a little bit of a sunshine over towards Toxin, saying you need to come back into the series if you want to have a chance to see this 5th map. Not to put all the weight on him, but it would be very helpful, I think, for the team's cause if both of your subs start to kind of light things up, especially considering how many close quarter battles that we're likely going to see. So that's a lot of frame up here for us. Again, this is just one of 4 regions that's going on at the moment. We're going to be kind of getting a little bit of a buffet line, kind of picking apart at a couple of different regions as we go through the entirety of today and tomorrow. But if you're particularly looking for a school, make sure you check out efuse.gg and navigate over to the College COD section where you can find bracket links to all 4 of our current regions that are going through qualifier number 2. You can also join the Discord. The announcements tab will have all of the links for you very readily available there. So join on up, even if you're not necessarily a player. If you're a college student, you're looking to kind of get involved with 8s or maybe even bring your school to the mix in the future seasons. It's always great to kind of get yourself in the mix and just be a part of that Discord server where a lot of announcements and a lot of news bulletins come through. So make sure you join, and I'd love to have you here at CCL. You know, we're a very inclusive family out here.
Absolutely, love being part of the CCL family. It's always been a great time, and hey, you know, we don't work together too often, but anytime we get on the desk is an absolute treat. And hey, we've had a great showing through these 3 matches here now, and I'd love to be able to call one way or another, but I don't think we can with how close this is played at times, and a 3-1 control being our biggest discrepancy. I could see it being closed out here by Army if they play really sharp. I could see Toledo forcing them at 5, so I really could not be more undecided in where this series finishes.
Yeah, very much so. Agreed with you. Just waiting on one last player to join us in, but it looks like we are very, very close to starting up our map number 4. And then after that, you know, kind of just to give you a little bit of a tease as far as what's to come, FGCU will be on stream. We're still waiting on the winners of the winners round 1 matchups to see who will play them. So that's kind of a little bit of a tease as we transition down towards the southeast region after this. But we are about ready to go. Loading in is what I'm hearing from production, so we're really close to getting on into Fortress map number 4. Army West Point looking to get themselves a 3 straight map series win, go 3-1 in the series, and 1 step closer towards qualification. Keep in mind that also on top of all the information we're throwing at you, this is a double elimination bracket with lower bracket action to continue tomorrow. So there is a second life for either of these 2 teams, depending on, of course, what the outcome looks like. But that's enough of that. Let's get on into what you want to see. Gameplay, action underway. Toledo COD starting off from the P2 side of the map, looking for some mid-map control. And it's Toxin, how about it? Nearly doubles up early. Talk about a little bit of a heat check for him.
Especially a counter to Colo in this one. I'm looking at the subs and how well they can get around, as we had alluded to coming into this. And like you said, a good start there, but Colo able to find 2 where Toxin couldn't. And Army West Point with P1 control with numbers for now. You see player 5 in Salvador putting pressure towards P2 just to give Toledo kind of a check in their setup. Ratso able to lock it down, and time still being guarded by Army West Point here.
Yeah. Wildcat is trying to hold his life a little while longer, but stunned up. He will drop. Good follow-up nade from Colo. That actually gives Salvador a chance at a 1v1, which the first couple of tags are in, so he wins that very swiftly. And now you take a look at the minimap, and Army West Point have done well to largely hold on to the favored side of the map for the second hard point. I say that with hesitancy because Toxin is doing Toxin things around the back. Ace pinching from the front, and it's actually Toledo in first. Status of the spawn's not convincing yet. They're actually being blocked at the moment. Army West Point funneling through Archway while Toledo COD are spawning down towards Cage side. And it looks like with that formidable play from Army West Point, they will get in for some follow-up time, but the bounce back from Toledo, right there. Back and forth we go early, Cash.
More secure hold of spawns as well. Pratso overlooking the back as the AR for this team. Everyone getting mixed around the front, Caddick holding down Statue and trying to inch their way towards P3. They want to make sure that they have pressure and presence over here. Ace might be able to shoot 2 in the back and is going to be able to connect. And now you have player 2 Toxin spawning up at Fountain. This could be a great swing for Toledo COD here.
Agreed. First gunfights coming through. Again, this is that moment, though, where any win from Army West Point is a good win. As you would anticipate that with the second hard point still open, that spawns would push them back to the opposite side of the map. But I love this from Toledo. They're just avoiding all gunfights at all possible moments. Just playing very passive around the back, watching every single alleyway. Trophy down from Wildcat, just trying to make sure the play from the front could be safe, but focus is actually through mid. The gunfight's convincingly won by Toledo for now, but the spawns are not actually going to follow up. Ace spawns out and actually helps out the defense as he gets a natural pinch. Where does Army spawn in this particular moment? The kills keep coming through for Toledo, and you can kind of see in the minimap, Richie also spawning out means that the gunfights now for Colo have to be victorious, and boy, are they. Very convincing fashion. Toxin trying to recover, trying to do what he can to work his way back in with his squad mates, but largely speaking, it's all Army West Point as Colo gets onto a killing spree, and Army have a chance to at least keep the hard point neutral at worst.
And you're able to get Colo off the map before he's able to earn the cruise missile. Toxin connecting with a great nade. 15 seconds up for grabs. Army going to be able to get the last of it. Toledo still out on transition, but a 2v2, maybe a 3v2. Not convincing for either side just yet. Army with numbers and winning the rotational gunfights. Now, one player left, and Ace standing to try to make a stop, make a stand. Not going to be the case. Army West Point, they get the back 10. They get this rotation. Not a clean setup, but figuring out where the Toledo push is coming from.
Toxin just trying to poke his way through. Has been seen in the hall. Wildcat just holds down the trigger and gets the benefit of a double. So West Point right back into the lead. At least for now. Toledo stacking up from the front, but not finding a lot of success. Ace is still going to force the play. He said the setup was good, boys. Let me just give a try at this. Oh, and Ace goes prone. Almost a chance at, oh my goodness, he takes down all three. One more up top is Wildcat, who eventually gets the kill, but Toledo have done the damage to at least contest. And what an individual play from Ace. Richie from the low ground, once again hitting through Art, and it's just the SMGs lighting things up early here on Fortress.
What we needed to see from both teams. Who's going to have more gas in the tank once we get into the later portions of this game, but for now, going back and forth with these haymakers, a nearly tied game. Toledo COD will make it as we go to a very scrappy P5, looking to close our set of rotations here. Pratso was in a position, maybe make things interesting for Army West Point, but for now, they win the rotation once again. They're earning this early time. How long can they hold on, or at least get as much clean time as they can?
Good kills on transition here from Toledo. Lots of damage from Colo, but there's just the marble statue, the anvil, and a lot of pots in the way from being able to get the damage to confirm the kill, and Army West Point continue to just kind of vie for positioning. Trophy system down will keep any members that can get into the zone a little bit safer, but the problem is this window position from Pratso is just completely uncontested, and we continue just to see the lead exchange hands. 23 seconds to fight for. Toledo still happy to hold on to the archway, but you got to get someone into the time here. That's the thing, and I think both teams are starting to feel that pressure as Army West Point continue to also have a bit of a footing just over the top. Colo's nade will weaken up the member down low. Easy finish. And with 10 seconds of scrap time, looks like Colo will get every last second. All his teammates are hopefully going to be able to have some influence over New.
And what a great play there out of Toxin off screen. He was outnumbered 3-1 at P1 for rotation. Takes 2. Gets traded out, but his teammates there for a quick trade back. So it didn't let Army get as comfortable with their 3 players over at P1 as they would have liked. Now that lets Toledo pour on more pressure off spawn and try to take these fights to Army West Point as they're still getting this time. And as they got a good bit of time off of the last go around, what can they do to change things here? Richie Colo combined for 2. Caddick trying to carve through and make something happen, but nothing giving just yet. Army West Point still in control.
Yep. Here we go. Colo up top. Oh, Caddick with the pistol. How many double-up pistol kills have we either confirmed or nearly had from both sides so far? Feels like a lot. Shout out Ryan Switchy for finding that gunfight. That's too funny, man. So we continue to kind of exchange hands. Another 50-50 battle as we look over towards New at Gallows. And who knows, maybe we can just gentleman agreements all the automatic weapons and just see pistols only next time out.
That'd be quite the Fortress hardpoint we get to see. Regardless, Army West Point have themselves a 30-point lead, something we didn't see map 1 at all. Toledo COD starting to play a little frantic, maybe a little frazzled, but at least collect themselves to get through and hold from the front. They'll do that for now as long as Army's giving it to them. And you can see Army West Point grouping up for this hit. A great nade out of Pratso, but all this time for now, going the way of Toledo.
Colo around the back, though, will block the spawns. Problem is, no kills are coming through for Army, so that block is pretty insignificant. 30 seconds to fight for. A couple of Toledo members starting to stretch over to control mid-map. Maybe give an option over towards B. Pardon B. Over towards the third hard point. Caddick will realize, though, that they left maybe 2 little members nearby, so he comes back and takes care of both of the offending Army West Point members, and now it's kind of, once again, winning on both sides of the war here for Toledo.
P3 is where we saw the breakdown, though. Army West Point were able to get into the bottom. Colo did enough work to get them spawning close and Toledo spawning out. Toledo with like a much cleaner look at this as the hill pops. 2 are going to be going their way. The pressure still coming in from the front out of Army West Point. Going to get up close and personal. Salvadori Pratso able to take him down, and now once again stacked up in maps is Army West Point.
Yeah.
Toxin on 8 also.
Yeah, I was about to say, Toxin is doing exactly what we asked him to. Well, one, good help from Ace. Yeah, double up is going to be there, but Ace is now on the low ground, so Army will gain some position. Topside maps, looking to recover. Oh, what a turn from Colo! Goodness gracious! So now after that double comes out, Army's in, and convincingly at that. 20 seconds to fight for. Could get us to just about an even game, depending on how the contest may still come through for Toledo, who do want to go for this, and with 3 kills, why not? Ace long-range shots with the Vaznev decent, but Colo turns him away, and it's 24-18 for Colo, as Army West Point once again continue to just have this game a catch on who's going to have the lead here.
No one with P4 control as those kills come in. Toledo, though, a couple bodies on it. Army West Point quickly gripping up their reinforcements, looking to try to get on this one, but Caddick's going to line up a couple more, now sitting at 28 and 20. Pratso going to line them up, and that'll be all 4 down. Spawns a little bit split, a little bit everywhere. Toledo COD, though, holding on to the first 20 seconds of time. Once again, back out to a 20-point lead as we get ever so closer.
Yeah.
200 points.
Pretty convincing for the first time, though, on the initial setup from Toledo COD. 30 seconds to fight for it. Army West Point still trying to form some sort of a break attempt, but it's coming a little bit in pieces here. A little disorganized on how they were hitting, and more importantly, when they were hitting, it felt like. And this is where Army West Point got into trouble last time. 20 seconds left, and they're really not committing too much to try to finesse this scrap time. Rich is in for a little bit of contest, but it's largely insignificant. And now Toledo COD are right back into that leader's advantage. 212 to 166. Army West Point, once again, backs against the wall, have to do well here at Blacksmith.
And I think given the next 2 hard points, Toledo have all but set the win condition. Just 35 seconds needed. You're going to 2 very open, very scrappy hills. Army West Point, as you said, doing what they needed to do last time. I think on 2 more uncertain hills than Hotel could have offered. So for Army West Point, job nowhere near done. Colo 26 and 21, trying to will his team coming back into this one now. And, well, doing a good enough job. But so long as Pratso sits uncontested in single window, he's going to be a problem. And finally, they take him care of, only for a streak to rain down.
I mean, not getting out of the hard point, though, Salvador. He's got a trophy to keep him safe. He backs away. Richie trying to assist. Caddick still on the contest. Gets 3 on his effort forward, but Wildcat up top. A key gunfight win to possibly re-hit from the backside. The dead silence will give him a little bit of an advantage, but Ace down low, just completely littered by other dead bodies, stays concealed. And that's key time for Toledo. 230 plus now to 195, and the rotation for Army West Point is not there to get early time here at the first. You need someone to pop off right here, right now.
Toledo content with where they're sitting. Why? Because you have Caddick running around, nearly 40 kills, making Army take all of these gunfights off spawn. Colo is able to get the clearance. Now you have to get the time. You cannot let this sit empty and let Toledo get back on it. And sure enough, you let that happen. They start applying pressure. They start getting close to Salvador with a big 2-piece. You're holding on if you're Army, but for how long can you manage it?
Can you get this trophy system now? Salvador needs to drop this here right now, because 1 nade takes down maybe 2 Army West Point members. Here's the hit from Toledo, all of it coming from the front. It's just down to number 6, Colo, of course it is, but he's just dancing in and out of the back of the truck. Now he's got help. Richie there to assist, but there's the, get the trophy down! Wildcat able to confirm the trade. Caddick has a little bit of a pinch set up. They can still win here. Can anyone get in time? Caddick locking down mid-map. He gets cut. Oh, there's going to be a contest, and there's going to be a chance for a 1v1 for the game. Toxin gets the win. One more player in front is Colo, and off spawn he falls. Toledo COD send us to a 5th.
Mixy back and forth ending there. Army West Point thought they had done just enough. They had rotation, but unfortunately couldn't survive long enough. We had said, how long can they last on P1 with this hold? The trophy system, you've spoken into this. It's like you've been watching COD for a little bit.
First time.
Know that maybe you should get that down. Ends up coming to bite him there. I mean, everyone was over 20 kills across the board. Couldn't have asked for a much crazier hardpoint, as Fortress likes to play out to. Didn't make it to P2, but Toledo showing that let's continue on our respawn train, at least as far as hardpoint goes, and force this map 5. But as much as we had questions asked at the start of that and questions answered, I think 6 more questions came up now going into this game 5.
Absolutely. And don't try to get an answer out of me, Cash, because I'm not going to give you one. I did not spend enough time in school studying the art of esports like some former presidents of universities over here.
Oh,
so, we jest. But we're a thriller. That much is for sure. I mean, that's now 4 straight maps worth of nail-biting action at different moments in time, if not from start to finish. And here's the big thing. Colo was a factor from minute one, but some of the same problems still kind of cropped up here or there for Army West Point. I think most notably that time it's on their break attempts. Just a little disjointed, allowing Toledo a pretty easy attempt to get their full holds. I think most notably was that play over towards Cannon in the second set of hills.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to point out. Didn't quite look like the execution they would have wanted on that. From there, you find yourself scrambling on, again, two very open hills where it's hard to get clean time. Even if you're keeping Toledo off of it, you're not earning that time for yourself.
Yeah.
So definitely two big tasks to ask of them. They made it close. They were able to almost force it to P2 where they had rotation. But again, when you have the win condition set the way Toledo did, when you need less than 10 seconds, every second of time has to be fought for before you go to a new hill. And Toledo very aware of that and capitalize on it now, putting themselves in a game 5 situation where do we see them continue executing at the level they were in that hard point? Do they correct their mistakes? Or, you know, even just talking about, I guess both teams did make a handful of mistakes on Mercado, so it's a matter of what do you want to pick. But I think less focusing on mistakes, more so talking about execution and how well teams do that on either side of the bomb.
No, that's a really good point, and I think that really is kind of the biggest moniker of where success will come from for either of these two teams. And it's one of those things, I think, just on top of that, where, you know, you kind of now have started to look over towards a player like Haddock, who is a factor pretty much across this entire series. He's kind of in takeover mode right now. And even though Toxin didn't have a supreme map, the duality between Toxin and Ace looked really good in a lot of these SMG trades for Toledo. And I bring that up only because of the point saying that that's likely going to be a case of any early aggression on either side of the bomb as we look towards the silo. So that's kind of where I think I'm looking at for possible difference makers into this series, in this map 5, I think in particular, because you look across the, you know, the damage, and I mean, take a look at it. I mean, Toxin, Ace, 27 and 30, 22 and 25. Those aren't necessarily the greatest KDs, but look how many assists they pulled. So, I mean, they're all over the map, and they're getting involved early and very often by the look of it.
Yeah, and I think even just to boast Ace's stat line even more, 22 and 25, sure, not great, but you look at 2 minutes in the hill, that's where he makes up for the lack and maybe a flashy kill-death ratio. And again, the way he and Toxin were flowing off each other, as you said, finding good time, finding good trades, assists, dealing damage. I mean, your subs rocking 3k damage, definitely something you're okay with on Fortress, and if they can continue that chemistry and that flow on a silo, along with Kadek, as you said, playing in what is takeover mode right now, Toledo could bode very well if they get out to an early advantage. Army West Point need to try to slow this momentum train early on in map 5.
Well, that's what's coming up next. It's El Asilo for the Search and Destroy, and all bets are off, at least for my at the current moment. We'll have a brief break, but it's going to be El Asilo for the Search and Destroy to determine who moves on and who has to fight for their last life in the lower bracket when we come back right after this. We wasted zero time to bring you all the hot action that you should get used to if you're going to be tuning into College COD for the entirety of this season. It's a Map 5 affair in this upper bracket round 1 matchup between Army West Point and Toledo COD. Winner moves on for another chance to possibly qualify early into their regional second division, whereas the lower bracket would be a very treacherous run for either of these two teams, you would anticipate. But here's the one thing that we know here. Well, maybe we know a couple of things. I shouldn't just say one thing. We look over the series layout. This series has been unpredictable. It's been tight, and that means that we should be in for an absolute burner here at El Silo.
And we had so many questions, kind of in the break, talking about factors that could influence how this map plays. More specifically, I think our main talking point was, does Caddick play with the sniper? And does Army play around that? You know, he's someone who, on a silo, with A site being completely concealed from cover, you could rule him out if he is playing that B soccer field lane with it, or just any outside portion of that site. We'll see what Army West Point do, and again, if he uses that, the way he was shooting with the tactical sticks, I'm not sure that he even needs it.
I mean, exactly. And the thing about it, too, wasn't just the fact that we saw Caddick pull out the sniper rifle. It just felt like watching him hold those long angles that he wasn't confident that he was going to be able to get the first shot and win any sort of long-range gunfight. Like, he was kind of passively watching tight angles, wasn't sure if he was being pushed or not. And that pressure becomes, I would say, even more remarkably true when you're looking at El Silo, where there are a much greater number of routes that can be ran to get around the bag. So if you do see a sniper come out, I think we need to evaluate, is it actually being able to dominate one side of the map? That's what we often see when we get an opportunity to see scopes on this map. So we'll find out. It's going to be Pratso kind of just watch and make sure no one's going to play over towards the top side of the AC, while Toxin and the rest of Toledo COD are looking stacked up towards A. There is a double stack of defenders nearby, though, and, well, the Semtex has to be put back away as the door continues to get shut on this play. Semtex in, the tag comes out. You know someone's right next to the door. This should be a pretty easy read. Wildcat just says, don't come in here. You live here. You can't just walk in.
Outside looking in, Toxin trying to make a play still. It's good timing on Wildcat when he finally gives up the door shut and then decides to go challenge himself. Can Colo get his trade? Sure he can, as he's been good for this entire series now. 3-3. No play made yet over towards the A site. It is open for you if you want to take it, but Toledo COD looking to maybe get another kill just to make them that much more confident.
Huh? That stun just connect them through?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We keep it pushing.
Yep. Fine. Very strong stuns. One of those, like, objects in your side mirror are closer than they appear type situations. As the bomb does get planted. 2v2. Richie up top of the dead silence. We'll make sure no one's playing the upper side of the bar. Salvadori just not expecting Caddick whatsoever, but free trade comes out now 1v1. Richie, does he predict the right corner? He does, and the shots are perfect. 1v2 situation for Army West Point as they will get on the board first.
Richie had somewhat of a quiet series so far. Not really any big boisterous plays, but that is a good one that we could even circle and maybe put a pin in for how the slate of this game 5 goes. A big clutch up there to get some momentum. The intangibles that does to a team, right? To win an early clutch like that. Definitely something that'll show more than on the scoreboard. Good round for Army West Point to get off the board whenever they kind of had an unlucky spell at the first blood attempt.
It was just one of those, like, how long are we really going to keep making these doors just close and shut all the way? But comedy nonetheless. But it did look like Toledo had the awareness that, yes, okay, that was a double stack inside. And that's the one thing when you continue to shut the door like that, you give away your positions. Like, okay, I know you're behind the doors. Interesting prospects for sure. Into the next round, though. Army West Point on the offense. You've got a lurker of Caddick just right outside the entryway. And now we've got, again, this Wildcat on the other side of the same door play, but this time Caddick stuns open the doors. That'll be good for 2 kills, and Toxin's free to kind of roam around the interior of the A site as he feels fit to do. Goodness, words.
Great grenade, connecting alley, and a 1v4 now where Richie's scratching his head as where all of his teammates went. Probably going to be on the worst end of timing here if that door opens. And it does. Caddick for 3 in the round. Able to get Toledo a very quick and very well executed response.
Yeah. Okay. Pretty clean as well. And I think a lot of that is just, again, like this guy, as you see in the final kill, it's the opening stun play, right? Pop open the doors. If anyone wants to do a little bit of toggling with the A site, you've got an angle to make sure there is no further peeks. Works out pretty nicely. 3 kills in the round for Caddick. And an opportunity for him to really assert some dominance early. Still looks like he wants to hold down to the tack, though. No sniper rifle as of yet. So we'll continue to see the normal weaponry. And once again, it looks like Toledo COD are going to just send both of their SMGs right up in towards A.
We'll see if any kind of dance is done there, or if one team tries to make something happen a bit faster. Richie holding down over here at tower, ends up backing the Toledo player all the way off, and still grouped up in and around the site, waiting for someone to give something up, and neither will be the case. Who's going to make the first move here? Is this first blood battle about to go down around kegs?
Oh, and Toxin just does not expect it, and why would you? When you're spending all your utility to clear out the A site, you're kind of going around blind when you try to filter in between the kegs like you mentioned. So now Caddick up top is going to be called upon to have to do something for this attack, as honestly Ace is kind of stuck, waiting for a gap. Richie reveals himself on top towards tower. No real significance, though, towards that play. Just kind of takes away a rotation and... No. That just can't
Surely
happen.
not. Unfortunate trade on your best player. Self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And now Wildcat still playing the door. Maybe plays it long enough that they think no one's home. Pratso able to trade things out. Caddick finally responds there. You said he needed to go big. Another 1v1 Richie is called upon to try and clutch up. Time dwindling. You have no choice but to get this bomb down.
Yeah, and Caddick will be able to get this down relatively quickly. Does Richie check this? Sure does. Bomb does get planted, but who cares? Wow. I think Wildcat's going to look back at that again and say, I could have taken... as soon as you get that first kill, I think it was a little lost on where he wanted to go afterwards, and that's one of those you learn as you do type situations, but it really was a difficult approach for Toledo off the rip when you lose, Toxin that quickly. It makes life very difficult for Ace, who's kind of looking for somebody to enter in either with him or for him, and your last 2 ARs are really not the players you want to do that. So, good first blood conversion for Army West Point. And we continue to kind of keep going back and forth here, Cash.
Same song and dance, different map. Richie gets 2 1v1 clutches, though, on their defensive goes that afford them, though, a 1-round lead, a lead nonetheless. We'll get a little replay here. Oh, man. There's the nade.
Yeah.
Unfortunate bounce that you can't just... kind of one of those mental errors you talk about in maybe sports and stuff where... could come back to bite you. They get the round win nonetheless, so we're not going to over-dramatize it, but stuff that, of course, this team will look to tighten up as time goes on.
Yep.
And now, offensive approach here, trying to get in towards this A site. Once again, no one's shaking things up towards B, though. Toledo continually, whether it's Mercado or CCL.
Yeah.
Paying respect to the site.
But this is Army West Point not looking for an early breach towards A. This is them looking to see if Toledo's going to get aggressive, and you're trusting that your ARs, most notably Richie, can kind of get information towards possibly an exterior play outside of A. And since he hasn't seen anything, now Colo's going to maybe take it an extra step further. And this could lead to a full wrap back over towards B, because Salvador's got information that Pratso's playing B, but he's playing it forward. I would love to see the call for Army to either retrack back and isolate, or just push through and keep Pratso away from the play.
Both of your players are very quickly clearing out this bottom side of the map as they're just running. You can tell they're hardly stopping to hold pre-aims. They are clearing out what they can. While Toledo COD is giving it to him. Bomb needs to make the wrapper. It needs to make a decision towards B, and that it will. While all 3 players for Toledo COD holding still inside, isolating Pratso now. What can you find, or does he get the better of timing on Colo here?
Shots come out. Pratso, you have to play for the trade here. Now the defense has arrived. That's just, once again, Army West Point. You have to feel confident your teammates calling out one-shots, because that was indeed the case. Now the defense has been able to kill off enough time, no chance to plant. Yeah, that's really one of those situations. This is kind of a learning moment, I would say. Once again, for Army West Point, like, if you're going to get both of your ARs all the way around through tower without any contact at all, and you know you have a defender stuck in front of B, why not just wrap the bomb around with you? And don't even bother trying to play for the kill. Or if you're going to try to isolate like that, you have to be able to follow up for a quick trade if you lose the first gunfight. Just a small mishap there for Army West Point, costing them potentially an easier round than it should have been.
So much learning going on, not only in these qualifiers, but what will be for the early portions of this season. Little misexecution. Toledo COD now get their try. Themselves a good round offensive win here, executing around the bomb site where they can. Once again, another 3 stack towards A. Just one player, it looks like, for Army maybe in this site. The other two backing off. And again, looking at the advanced position of Richie, already at that 50-yard line of the map with the opportunity to push forward.
It's well cooked. The stuns kind of give away there's no trophy down, so may as well try to catch a free kill. And those are impressive shots from Toxin up top. Holy smokes. That'll allow Ace a chance to plant. And now for the retake, Colo and Richie with packs in hand, you would assume, would have to put together a miraculous 2v4, and it does not look all that likely. That sounds in play. Need to find a kill soon to reset this, but Pratzo will be watching this cross as soon as Richie mantles in the window. At least he should be. And there it is. Okay. Clean stuff from Toledo COD. It all starts with Toxin. An impressive opening double.
2 big rounds back-to-back for Toledo COD to give themselves 3-2 advantage. Great comms, great trade there. Toledo with the early advantage in this game 5, where they had to battle back after a very, as you said, nail-biter hard point. Now you have to slow things down, pump the brakes, and get real methodical with it. Ace still looking to get on the board as well. Toledo COD very much working out their game plan as this is progressing, making adjustments where they need to. Army West Point offensively, you're hoping to have any kind of round better than the last one you had.
Very, very true. Okay, here we go. See what happens on this round, and I like this call from Army West Point. If you were not contested through exteriors of this bottom side of the map the first time, do it right off the rip. This time, though, Katic is watching. Oh, fortunate he's able to stay alive. That puts a pause to Army's designs towards wrapping once again. But now you've lost a little bit of this top patio control, and if Richie can get up top, this makes this A site completely cut. I mean, Toledo is split 2-2. No chance to reinforce A.
And look where you were saying they needed to improve. The bomb is following these two players. So as long as the map's open, bomb is close in tow. Richie calling out, all right, I'm not seeing much. We don't see anyone back down to A, so they're just making a decision. They know someone's got to be home. There's probably players, if you're playing the numbers game in this A site, they're trying to wait for any information to make a more confident call in Toledo, giving up nothing. So though you have this real estate taken, it's not amounting to a lot of information. That stun check, though, I thought should ring true, but still doesn't connect.
Toxin, good first blood. 20 seconds on the clock. And Army will lose a second. Oh, this has gone from bad to worse just like that. Richie has to double up. He predicts that there's a second player nearby, but not the exact location. Salvador just does not quite get into the window in time. So Toledo COD good patience to kind of hold their ground. I feel like a lot of teams would get really antsy right there and try to force their way to do something crazy, but they say, hey, you get the team that has the plant, so you make the next call, Army, and we'll respond to it accordingly, and boy, did they ever.
I mean, your island player isn't seeing any progress across field at B, so he's calling out things are all good. You're thinking the bomb has to be floating around A if you're not getting any kind of signs of life towards the B side, or if they are, it's at range. So, like you said, discipline, patience, check the box for Toledo COD, not getting antsy, not giving up anything, no one getting caught out and getting blooded, and turn Toxin back-to-back rounds finding the opening 2 kills. And here can put themselves at series point with a well-executed round, but the timing with the dead silence, Richie will line up too.
That's Richie with the Vaznev kind of holding a longer angle down low. You don't often see that. Maybe he was thinking about trying to contest the double doors into the backside of A, pending a hit came through, and he just ends up finding Toledo COD running his direction. So Army West Point in a very convincing spot, 4v2 situation. Toledo is stuck not just kind of out of A, but almost nearly out of the building completely. I mean, Pratzo's just trying to find a trade into Richie. He'll not be gifted an opportunity for it, and Ace has got Wildcat right close towards this backside of the billiards area. I mean, this is just them hoping someone walks into your line of sight. And Army will not allow that to happen. Bomb carrier down. Salvadori finishes it off. It's a flawless round for Army West Point, getting them back to within 1.
4-3. All started with Richie finding 2. It's been a game of first bloods. Sometimes search and destroy plays where first bloods aren't all that influential, but more times than not, first bloods can dictate things, especially when the last 3 rounds, the first blood has been 2 kills in succession, and that definitely can influence around more than 1 kill. Pretty simple math there. Richie getting his hand at things, finding 3 in the round. Now 1 round away from tying things up again. These have been neither of these have been, or excuse me, none of these rounds have been super quick, apart from that first opening break. Pretty stagnant through the mid-round, but quick through A is going to be Richie and Toxin. First Blood King reigning true.
Yep. And it's a quick exchange of kills to a 2v2 early on. Well, look at the aggressive route from Wildcat. He may be able to get behind this play. Caddick is just waiting for a chance at Salvadori, and oh, he got the gunfight he wanted, just could not land the shots. Now Pratso's left by his own. And 1v2. And, well, actually, once again, Army West Point is very slow to make a decision on where they want to go. And Pratso's going to get a full clear of the high ground and A. So you should have an idea on where this post plant's going to be set up. It just comes down to, can you get your dead silence charged up in time, and can you actually win the gunfights, because they're not going to be easy ones.
I think more so than anything, time is the factor. We know Pratso can win these gunfights, but can he clear out enough with enough time remaining? Both players very passive, very backed off. One with high ground, one not so much, but the Daddy does get charged up. Here comes the play. Can he read the corner?
For shots, no. Salvadori will just go prone. Nade has to land. And it does, but it's a trophy system that actually blocks it, and there's the kill. Okay. For a moment there, you started to see maybe the window of how it works out, but it's not to be in a 4-4 tie. Army West Point off of 2 rounds in a row. I mean, this has been a tight fair from literally the first drop in. And it looks like we've got the designs of a great one here instantly in the early stages of the CCL season.
Insight to, as you were alluding to, action will get all year long. 4-4. You'd love to say that this goes around 11 based on the trends of not only this map, not only the S&Ds, but the series as a whole. Toledo, it feels like more of your, for both sides, your mistakes get magnified once you get later and later into these game 5s. Maybe we see things slow down here as teams make an approach. Maybe Toxin continues to find first bloods and punch openings through the map for his team. Still working towards this A site. Army West Point having to reshuffle. Caddick chopping down 1, chopping down 2. I mean, that should be the round here.
Should be. Colo nearly a chance to get one and get away, but not to be. Caddick just again in a key position takes over. That double, like you mentioned, he just calls game, right? I mean, there's just nothing else you can do about it. Then you have Pratso down low, so you look from his angle. And now the pressure's on. Army West Point staring down possibly the smoking gun of Toledo COD, who's on match point. And Richie, who's had a great game, would hate to see this one go awry. See if he can get this to around 11. It's going to be on Army West Point offensively to figure out what they want to do. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to feel things out on the outside of this bottom part of the map again. They found a lot of success there, but do they actually commit to it? And yeah, you called it exactly. Caddick is going to be the one to try to respond up close and personal. Richie will have a look at this gunfight. The trait is decent enough. It will not allow much of a chance to continue further forward, but at least we go 3v3.
And Army have the numbers here with Pratso, I think, just ringing out shots. He's played here every round defensively without fail. If I'm Army, I'm you know, it's a tough call to make, right? Easy on the desk to say, but you know he's out of the play every time. You have a trade there. You know you have numbers towards the site, but again, where they're playing is, of course, the bigger question and hesitation. Wildcat guy gonna pop Deddy, and they're gonna collapse around the site and see what they can find. Numbers could pan out for him, but this off angle here, oh no.
Yeah, door just opens right over the top of Ace. Now numbers advantage for Toledo. Wildcat, this is his first discernible decision that he's made in quite some time. He's just gonna go quickly around the back. And Salvadori could join him. If he finds Pratso up top, this B site's wide open. You have to make the call right now if you're Wildcat, though, to get the plant off, and he will. The bomb will go down, and Salvadori's changed the angle. He's gone back to the offensive high ground, and Toledo's going to have a really tough time rotating against this because you know you've got defenders inside of A, but the connection is not enough for the kill, and things will reset to the 2v2, 33 seconds on the clock.
I love Salvadori getting out of dodge because you don't want to leave your player in a 1v2 with enough time left to work it. Now they have to hunt. They know Salvadori's probably back here, but they don't have the time to clear out everything, and that's what will cost him on this cross. You would think he gets the information, but about to get bullied out on the site. The clock, though, coming into effect. You have less than 10 seconds to make a play.
And Wildcat just creating extra space by playing in the corner. 8 seconds. Salvadori just has to kill off another half a second. Fuse is coming through. Oh, they get the kill! Ace saves a life! And as we framed it up, the sub-duo could be the difference maker for Toledo COD. They staple home the win in round number 10. Oh, I was ready to say, here comes round 11, but Ace and Toxin get the job done. I mean, Ace has to be on 1 HP here.
It feels like the ending to map one hard point, if I'm being candid, where it felt like Army had done enough to rally back, that we were going the distance. And again, the same play that killed him that hard point, a second too slow. You can't quite finish the kill. Let's Ace get back into play. I mean, Toledo's ice tested and tried and true here through game 5, able to force it. They win the last 2 maps to take it. Unreal series. I mean, there's so much to look at from it. There was no one clear-cut thing that won or lost a team this series. It was really one where both teams had their moments. Toledo just got the last laugh there and makes their journey easier. As you said, the double Elam bracket, but Toledo's journey gets that much easier. Army, West Point, you were hoping to walk away with at least a round 1 win, and you can't.
Holy
Man,
smokes.
so many moments in this S&D.
So many moments in this series, Amber. Are you kidding me? Oh, goodness. I mean, just the way that last round finishes, it does feel like the appropriate ending to what is a very tight contest. Okay. Replay opsis, making sure we see that again. And I guess why not? If you got the angle, I might as well use it.
Hey, there you go. But to your point, it felt like Salvadori had done enough. He got through the back lines, he repositioned his angle, and the timing. I mean, both players crossed alley as he looked left to their spawn side window. I really thought that Army had done enough to pull that round off. You said Wildcat makes one of his most discernible decisions, and it doesn't pan to fruition. Just very unlucky for them there.
I mean, is this another one of those moments, like, the call was correct, the setup was correct, Salvadori's rotation was good. It's just, I mean, both players had to have been tremendously low, as you see it once again. To be fair, the shots were a little shaky. Okay, say that out there. But a 6-4 total here in map number 5. Toledo COD will move on in their bracket. Again, it's going to be a long road for Army West Point now, missing out on a chance to stay in the upper bracket. So with that W, Toledo will go up and play McMaster, who is a tough opponent. They made quite the playoff run last year. That is not by any means an easy round. Still, they had to win a couple after that. Whereas for Army, things look, well, a little bit, again, like we continue to talk about, pretty dire as you drop down to the lower bracket where you have to have a much longer run. But here's a look back at the series. A good one, really, from start to finish, Cash.
Absolutely. You could pick countless moments in each of these maps to talk about where, you know, teams had performed so well. You think to map 3 and Colo's performance. You think at how Okatic turned things up. The last 2 maps to, like you said, go in takeover mode and win things for the team. The sub-duo combining for the win for Toledo there in Game 5. Great series between these 2 squads. Excited to see, apart from qualifiers, no matter where they land, how they look to perform this season. Lots to learn from, lots of good things they could build upon. A great opening series for us tonight.
And with that, we move and start to change our focus again regionally around the entirety of what's going on this weekend. In particular, coming up next, it looks like it's going to be FGCU taking on KSU, Kennesaw State, if I'm not mistaken. That's a Southeast regional matchup. That'll be a round 2, winners round 2 match, and then we will see a winners round 3 match in the Midwest division. Obviously, we need to kind of go through a handful of processes, but we're going to figure out which teams those will be as we continue to kind of plug away at this first day of qualifier number 2. We'll step away for a break, but before we do, I want to give big shout outs to, well, it's a little awkward. I mean, Army just lost. Now we get to kind of hype up the America's Navy just a touch here. Our sponsor coming back once again with Fandom, and a lot of opportunities here with America's Navy. This one really kind of stands out on the page. The Navy currently is offering $180,000 in ROTC scholarships, which can pay for your full college tuition for students with exceptional academic and leadership credentials. And on top of that, for a limited time, future active duty sailors who leave for boot camp before March can earn an enlistment bonus of up to $115,000. So not only can you pursue your education, that's also a great way to kind of set yourself up financially down the line. So you can learn more by visiting America's Navy online. And of course, big shouts to Fandom for also coming in and supporting once more this season. We'll step away for a break. When we come up, it's winners round 2 action from the Southeast region. College COD qualifier number 2. We'll be back after this.